Recording in progress. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Application Jumpstart. I hope you all are doing amazingly, fantastically phenomenal today. As we get started here, number one, sorry, we're starting a few minutes late. We were having a scintillating conversation about stuff that you do not need to know about. But as we're coming
that makes
in,
it sound nefarious, and it wasn't. It was just hair.
super nefarious. Let us know where you are watching from. Let us know if you're planning on applying this cycle. Let us know if you have been here the last couple weeks. And also, Rachel, I think we'll be posting a link to a submission form. If you have not yet submitted a secondary to be reviewed tonight, you should probably do that so that we can get to your get to your reviews and submit. We do have a few to read. We've pulled in some extras as well. So we're going to be rocking and rolling. My name is Dr. Ryan Gray. If you don't know who I am, where have you been all of my life? I've been out here for 10 years now, making podcasts, making lots of content to help you, the pre-med student. This week was fun. I got to interview probably my highest profile person ever, Dr. Sanjay Gupta from CNN, a neurosurgeon at Emory. He still practices all the time. So that's who I am. Also joining me tonight, Verinia Granum, former pre-health and STEM advising at Assistant Dean of Pre-Health and STEM Advising at Hofstra University. How are you tonight, Verinia?
I am doing wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you. Yeah. Not so much podcasting, but more so behind the scenes, helping students. Now with you folks here at MAPS, which I thoroughly am enjoying. And I'm looking forward to helping some students today.
Thoroughly.
Hofstra.
Nice.
I'm getting shout outs.
Yeah. Hofstra. Also joining me, Courtney Lewis, former director of admissions at a osteopathic medical school. How are you tonight?
Doing well. Excited to be here and get some advice, help some people before the application opens.
Nice. Exciting. Yeah. And last but certainly not least, Rachel Grubbs, co-founder at MAPT and test prep, MCAT pre-med extraordinaire, expert, something, all of those things. How are you, my friend?
I'm excellent. I'm in a very chipper mood. It's been a good work week, and these workshops are just so super fun. I've talked to several students who either watched me in the workshop in the last couple of weeks, or sometimes their parents, and I've been told that I'm super blunt, which is something I've been aspiring to be. I spent my childhood being told I was too blunt, and then I spent a lot of my adulthood having dialed it down too far. And in my 40s, I've been trying to emulate you, Ryan, and your ability to have radical candor. And it sounds like I'm getting there. So let's be honest with each other, friends.
I love it. Wow, my 4-year-old's upstairs with cars all over the ceiling. So tonight we're going to talk about secondary essays. Some may say, some people say, one of the more important parts of the medical school application. So I know we have a little bit of a presentation, a little slideshow for a couple slides. We want to start that. Get that rocking and a rolling. Application Jumpstart.
You've seen our smiling faces. Reminder, this is week 3 in a 5-week experience. So we're doing secondaries tonight. We'll do mock interviews next week. We are going to take the final week of December off, and then we'll be back in January for a roundup. This is some of the prior week stuff. So please just let me. Oh, wait, here we go. I already did it. There we go. So what are we covering tonight? If you've been at Jumpstarts before, you know we keep the slide portion really short. We want this to be a live interactive workshop. We want it to be group advising, much like, by the way, Application Academy. So if you like this, there's a lot more available. One thing we want to do is just clarify how many secondaries you're going to write. It's a lot. There are basically 2 simple rules for success in secondaries, and they're not secrets. We're going to tell them to you in like a minute. We're going to make sure that you know where there is a free repository of secondaries, because you can be using them now and later. And then we'll get right into live review. So that's our evening, friends.
How do you feel about now and laters? Do you like them? They good? They're a little chewy.
I have this like distinct memory of being a child and not realizing when I was doing my Halloween sorting, and they're always like telling you, oh my God, there's going to be drugs and razor blades and things in your candy. And so I opened a Now and Later and popped it in my mouth thinking it was a Starburst.
Oh, yeah.
And I definitely had found a corrupted, evil-fied Starburst, right? There was something horribly wrong with this Starburst. So I spit it out and I ran to my mother and I let her know, and she let me know that it was okay, but I never really forgave Now and Laters for betraying that.
It's like the Wish, and like everything is the Wish version of it's the Wish version of a Starburst.
Right.
If you need to lose a tooth, though, they work.
There you go.
That's true.
There you go. Awesome. All right. So that's the deal. All right. So let's talk about the secondary essay process. Courtney, as the resident former director of admissions here on the panel tonight, what was the thought process behind crafting secondary essay prompts that you wanted students to submit to you?
Yeah, I think what we were most interested in is wanting to know kind of why they're interested in us specifically. The secondaries are really the only direct questions we can ask of applicants, because the application goes out to everyone. Everybody sees the same thing. So those are the only school-specific questions we get to ask. So anything else they wanted to mention that wasn't in their application, why our school specifically, or why they're drawn to our mission, or things like that. And, a couple of other things. I know some faculty that don't necessarily understand or comprehend the amount of work that the application is, would love to put 50 prompts in there and have a writing sample and have a recording and all of these things, because that's just more information and they would love to have all of that. But that's because they're not reviewing it and they're not the applicant. So, and we want it to be accessible no matter who you are. So we try to keep them condensed, but they are important because, again, direct from the school, this is what they want to know. This is what they find valuable in tandem with your application. So
yeah,
they matter.
They matter. Yes, they do. So in general, on this slide, you can see how many, right? There could be 14 plus prompts. Thanks, Duke. For I think that's the only one that gives everyone a little. Miami.
Yep.
Miami is another one. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Miami basically has you recreate the whole primary application for their secondary essay process, which is just asinine. I would love to go give them a piece of my mind one day, maybe. So depending on the school, right? It depends on how many prompts it could be, anywhere from 0 to a lot. So you have to be prepared. And then, yeah, I think at the end of the day, you have to know that almost every school will send you a secondary essay. Most, if not the far majority of schools, are not screening secondary. They're not screening your stats and sending you secondaries only if you are a potential candidate competitively stat-wise for their institution. So that's the process. And yes, just like this help sign, the secondary essay tsunami is what it is. Comes fast and furious, and it's very easy to get behind. It's very easy to get overwhelmed, which is why we recommend pre-writing your secondary essays. So what's next? You're muted, Rachel.
Hi. That leads us perfectly to the next slide, right? 2 simple rules for success in secondaries. Number 1 is pre-write your secondaries. I feel like I should have made this like Fight Club. The first rule is pre-write your secondaries. The second rule is pre-write your secondaries.
Yep.
Oh, if only I'd thought ahead. Yeah, and so when I say pre-write, what do I mean? Well, if you're doing AMCAS, it might mean you're submitting your primary in late May, early June, and you're spending all June writing your secondaries. And that's often what you'll hear me say, but that is an oversimplification because one, not everyone's applying AMCAS. And two, some people might actually start looking at secondaries as early as now, which doesn't mean you have to write all your essays now, but you can use secondaries to help you narrow down your school list. One of the most common complaints I hear is, hey, I read a bunch of mission, vision, value statements and they're all the same. P.S. It feels like that when people read personal statements too. It's real similar, right? We all like people. We all want to help people. We all like science and medicine. But so I do recommend looking at secondaries early on. And then I think it can be a great break from, the stress of the personal statement and activities. Those should typically come first. They do typically come first, but especially if you're doing TMD-SAS or a COMAS, they tend to allow you to submit your primary a little earlier. And with Texas, there tends to be a very quick turnaround from primary to secondary. So those you may want to be pre-writing in April. So that's rule number one, pre-write or regret. Those are your choices.
Yeah.
And then,
I'm gonna take over screen share here for a second because everyone is asking, how do I find the secondary prompts? Go to secondaryapps.com or just medicalschoolhq.net.com, go to resources and look at the secondary application essay library. And you can see here we have Alabama, Arizona, Arkansas, California, Colorado. We got all the schools here.
hey, that could be a song.
It is a song.
I know.
And so you can see here that most of the time the prompts don't change. So if you see here, we may have some older prompts. If you see that it's older, you can probably still pre-write, and some of that work may go to University of Florida's is terrible. That's why they're so long there. Most of the work that you're going to do is still going to be useful for you. So go check it out. Secondaryapps.com. We don't want prospective doctors link on there. Don't do that.
As a prior director of admissions, I didn't know that database existed. So when I came on board, I was like, oh, look at all these resources. I had no idea.
Yeah.
I thought I was being sneaky.
Well, and you've mentioned that when you were the director, you did change yours many years. And we don't pretend to have crystal balls, but I always figure if I have to pre-write 100 secondaries and I do so, and they don't have DO secondaries, what do you mean we don't have DO secondaries?
I think she's talking about the prospective doctor.
Oh, boo. Thanks, Hadley. Yeah, they could be changed. But if I have to pre-write 100 and I actually pre-write 100 and then I have to change 10 of them, I'm still going to think that was worth my time.
It's a win.
Big time.
Yep.
Definitely.
A win is a win.
A win is a win. A win is a win. TikTok basically takes over our life.
Pretty much.
Anyway.
Second rule is answer the question. This sounds so simple. Why am I saying this, Ryan?
Because nobody answers the darn question.
What do they do instead?
They get super fancy. They're like politicians. They're like, I really like your question, but here's what I'm going to talk about. They sell themselves. They hyperbolize. They get off into the weeds about just random stuff. And at the end, go ahead, Brittany.
I'm sorry. They tell too many stories sometimes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, so we happen to have a director of admissions here. A year ago, Courtney, you were reading secondaries and doing interviews for people who are currently Med 1s. How do you feel?
Like 6 months ago.
Yeah. So how do you feel when you've worked so hard to create these secondaries, how do you feel when someone answers a different question than the one you asked?
I think it's pretty telling, if you answer what you wish I would have asked instead of what I actually asked. One, you didn't put in the time. Two, it's not really going to give me anything valuable that you're going to score really well on evaluation on. And one thing I will say, especially for pre-writing and answering the question, if you do pre-write, please, please, please change the name of the school to match. It is offensive if you do not change the name of the school. That's an easy catch. Please do it if you're pre-writing, and don't just copy paste the mission statement from the school and like change a word or two and call it good. But yeah, answering the question is really important because there's a reason why we're asking those questions. So
right.
that's
Yeah,
what
and
we
you
wanna
bring
know.
up a good point, because even though there is a lot of overlap, right? Many schools ask, tell me about a time you failed, or tell me about an obstacle. That does not mean you copy and paste for every school. You might get to borrow some sentences from yourself. But you know, each question needs to be approached head on, and it goes back to answer the question. Read the prompt, make sure you're getting the nuance. So, you know, some people say, oh, just pre-write your diversity essay. I'm like, that is a recipe for didn't answer the question. You know, look and see what they ask and then answer that.
Yeah. Do it.
All right, we're trucking. Guess what we're got time for now? We're done with the slide portion, friends. Let's do some work.
Let's do some work. Woo! Hadley's our like personal cheerleader here.
Absolutely.
All right. Let me open up my page here. Uno mas time.
While you're doing that, Tirth asks, what if our essays are not engaging after removing stories? Here's the thing, Tirth. Most secondaries are very short and the questions are very direct.
Yep.
Right. So we do talk a lot about storytelling for your primary application essays. Your personal statement, your personal statement is going to have a narrative, most likely. A lot of your activities, maybe not all, but many of them are going to have a narrative or at least some anecdotes. But secondaries tend to be questions that are very straightforward descriptions. And often you have something like 300 characters, 500 characters. You're not going to have space for a story.
Well,
Yeah.
and
I
we
almost
don't
never recommend stories for
and
secondaries.
we don't want you to just copy paste like something from your experience section that we already saw in your application and sling it over to the secondary. We already have that information, so please don't copy paste. If you need to use the same or similar example, change the wording, update the wording so that it's not laziness, because we will notice, because usually we go straight from primary to secondaries. It's the same person looking, so they will know if it's a verbatim copy.
Yeah. I think students get frustrated with me that the last couple of cohorts of Application Academy, they're like, because we transition from primary applications, the personal statements, storytelling, to secondaries, and they carry over that same thinking of stories and this and that into their secondaries. And I'm like, yeah, it doesn't work. Don't do it. And they're like, but Dr. Gray, you said stories, anecdotes, whatever. Unless the prompt specifically asks for a story of some sort of anecdote, I wouldn't do it. They just don't work. I get frustrated as a reader. And I think like this is one time, this kind of role that I have now of helping students with their applications, I think it pays off that I'm kind of a dumb reader, that I'm really slow with my reading. I'm really bad with my reading comprehension, because I just get super down to the basics with reading these things. And I'm like, if I look at the question and I immediately don't understand why you're talking about what you're talking about, and it has nothing to do with the question, I get frustrated as a reader, as a dumb reader. I can't keep up with what you're doing. Go straight into the question, right? Or answering the question. So anyway, let's rock and roll. All right. So orange and blue, someone sucking up a little bit, maybe with a little gator colors. I'll take it. All right. So if you are new here, what we will do is we will take a pause for a second. We'll read this. Hadley, my verbal reasoning section was terrible, so I'm a dum-dum. Anyway, we'll take a second to read this. Give your thoughts in the comments section, and then we'll keep rocking and rolling. All right. What do you think, my friends? What do you think? To the
Lots going
students.
on.
Yeah,
Yeah,
to the
so let's
students.
remind them, for those of you that are new or forgot, you guys tell us first, then we'll talk. What type in the comments? What do you think?
Get rid of the "my ability" sentence, says Hadley. Maybe remove the last sentence of the first paragraph, says Annie.
Any big picture things? Can I see that prompt again one more time?
Okay. So question, Mohammed asks, do you have to connect it back to medicine? Answer the question. Does it ask you to connect it back to medicine? Michelle says, I don't like how it starts with listing skills. Brittany, you were about to jump in. What do you think?
I agree 100%.
With what?
Sorry, I didn't hear the name of the person who said that they didn't like the skills that they
Okay.
listed. But yeah, there's a lot here. So they essentially didn't really answer the prompt. The question was, how did you grow? What did you learn? What did you enjoy about serving others? And immediately they launch into skills that they developed. It just seemed chaotic.
Yeah.
They go
Go
ahead. Oh, no, they just go from skills to not only winter jackets to urban youth and middle schools. And in all of that, I still don't see how they grew, what they learned, and what they enjoyed about serving others.
Yeah. So I love these multi-part questions because I'll literally go through them and go, okay, did you answer this one? How did you grow? I don't think I see that anywhere. Okay. What did you learn? Maybe, where was it? Taught me the importance of acknowledging everyone has a unique home life and showing people grace. Is that like, it took you 20, Rachel, this is one of Rachel's favorite comments. Like, it took you 20 something years to realize that people have different home lives.
Yeah, that's not the brag that you think it is, friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also, I don't know, I don't want to nitpick here because AmeriCorps is really cool, meaningful work, but it's paid work. I don't know, maybe that's fine for community service. It is definitely service, but it's not volunteer. You know, I just looked at AmeriCorps pay ranges and it's anywhere from $14,000 a year, which of course is horrible, to $80,000 a year, which is, depending on where you live, maybe not in Boston, but in some cities, that's a lot of money.
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting question, right? If they ask for community service and they're talking about a paid gig, even as little as it is, like, would the person reading this immediately go, nope, you failed?
Yes.
Yeah. Courtney, thoughts? Yes. Any other thoughts, Courtney?
I mean, overall, I kind of liked where it was going. I agree. It comes across a bit choppy in how they put it together. It really doesn't flow very well. I think that they did some good things. If it's paid, I don't know if I would count it as community service. Maybe parts of it, like if you outside of it assisted with the free jackets and donation center, that wasn't part of your required time there, potentially, but not quite sure it qualifies for a paid position, even if it's community based.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm still not even sure what they did either. Did they teach? Like, what did they do?
Yeah, they didn't say.
They worked with youth, I guess, at some point.
The youths. They worked with the youths.
Yeah,
The
well, they said
youth.
students, but that doesn't mean they taught, right? They could have been a library aide. Like, I mean, I have students.
Yep. All right.
Answer the questions.
There we go. One down.
Mhm.
What do you guys think? Easier, harder than you thought? What do you think? I can do this. All right, let's see if you can. So 500 words. This one's a little bit longer.
Boy, they really set you up with how they want the narrative to read there, like the flow of the contents, and pretty much give it to you.
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
All right, students, what do you guys think?
Don't worry about using contractions. Limited space.
And write like you talk.
Hmm?
And write like you talk.
Mhm.
Marlene says it's flowery. Michelle says, I don't think he answers the question completely. Gracia says, can we see the prompt again?
Okay. So why was it challenging? I think we can probably all understand why it was challenging. How did you handle it? Push through it? Is that just kind of grin and bear it? Knowing what you know now, would you do anything differently? I don't think they answered that.
Nope.
All right. And then what did you learn? Maybe this last sentence. Maybe. Sometimes I like to be super specific. Like, I learned that. just use the same words back at them.
Mhm.
Rachel, what do you think about this one?
Yeah, I mean, it's a powerful story. I do think this person, you know, just based on what we said a little bit ago, secondaries don't have to be stories. There's a lot of setup before we get to the actual heart of the thing. And I think you could have cut a lot of that exposition and setup and then used it to show more reflection and growth. So I'm not sure it was like the best use of space. I think Muhammad just put a comment in the chat that I agree with, which is the story is gripping, but didn't really answer the prompt as said. I mean, I've been through something similar and I know how hard this was, so I don't want to belittle it. Like one time I was like about to go live into a 2-hour presentation and I found out that someone I loved had killed themselves, right? Like it is some weird compartmentalization that goes on where you're just like, going to process that later and you do your thing, right? And be professional. And you are going to need that skill as a physician sometimes. So I don't want to dismiss how heavy this was or how hard this person had to work to keep it together. But there's not a lot of reflection here.
Yeah. and it's too like too nice and neat. Like it's like, oh, I went through it, life goes on.
Yeah.
Sometimes the challenges are the most rewarding, and it makes you wonder, well, did you really?
And also, like, again, I'm not accusing this person. I'm saying the essay didn't do you any favors. I cried because through all of this, I was so proud of myself. It's okay to cry because of your grief, right? Like, you've lost your sibling. So, it's not all about the calc exam.
Yeah. So here's what I take away from this. And again, this is a terrible situation. What I take away from this is this student tried to say, I'm ready for medical school. I can get through anything. Hell, look, I took a final the night after my sister passed away.
Yeah.
Right. That's what I get from this.
I agree with that, because they didn't get into the bulk of like the difficulty or the growth or the reflection or anything like that. I'm as cynical as it sounds, with all of the storytelling, I almost think that this could have just been something made up, because all of the kind of bulk of it is missing. And so they don't speak to that. So do I think that's what it is? I don't know. I've read thousands and thousands and thousands of secondaries, and this just seems a little canned and not with the content that would lead me to believe the depth was there. Again, I know that's cynical, but
and
being honest.
Essay writer, if you're out there, we're not saying you're lying. We're saying this essay did not make you seem sincere.
And may as well be honest that that could be taken that way, right?
YOLO. All right. All right. Why this school question? I like these prompts because there's a lot to talk about here. Rodney loves it. Okay. And he asks, is it allowed to name drop? There are no rules. Name drop away. Probably won't have any impact, but name drop away. Marlene says, me too. I'm assuming that means you like it. The end sounds like copy and paste, but other than that, it's good. They certainly researched the school. Yeah, sadly. Reads a little choppy.
It does read a little choppy. I mostly ignore grammar for essays like this, but interested in primary care, comma, UVA drew me. That means that UVA is the one interested in primary care, right? Like, you just have to understand how clauses attach to objects and subjects. So just some stuff that
I don't know any of those words that you just said.
Okay, so here's what it is that the way they read it is they're talking about the school, not themselves, and you have to get far in before you realize they're actually talking about them. Because even if you don't know all those words I said, instinctive grammar rules that we all know just got broken. Okay. So usually I ignore that stuff, but if you break grammar to the point that you're not clear, I will call you out.
Okay.
Yeah, they don't need that. part of the sentence.
Okay.
Um,
That's
yeah,
where I'm
you're
a
right.
dum-dum and I wouldn't have picked it up.
Yeah, it
All
could
right.
just UVA drew me in. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right.
mhm.
Okay. All right. What else can we do to stand out? So, the standout question.
Here, have you not been listening? Don't try to do that.
Don't stand out.
Listen to yourself.
Yeah, if you want to go to school, you have to research it, right? Nobody's saying not to research the school. It's exactly what you should do. Okay. Kind of cool how they connected some of the parts of the school missions to themselves. That's exactly at least what I recommend doing when why this school question. Instead of making it read like you went to their website and you said, I like this, I like this, I like this, I like this. You go, I like this, and here's why. I like this, and here's something that I did similarly, right? Being able to tie it in.
Mhm.
The one thing that I saw at the end here that I would be like, ooh, here's what I would do. They say that they are interested in practicing medicine in underserved communities. I would immediately go to their activity section and go, do you have any underserved community experiences here? Or are you fibbing? Courtney, what do you think reading this one?
I pretty much agree. I liked that they had specific things to tie in. I agree with you, marrying yourself to the school on, providing them with information on why the two of you will be successful together is always the most impactful. So overall, I would say this compared to something general, like I really like the curriculum, but without really getting into any type of specifics or depth. I really, I know I'll receive a great education there. I know that you have wonderful match rates. Those are all too general and, just kind of canned responses. So I do like the pull of specifics and a little bit of depth in it. So overall, I would say this is pretty good.
Yeah. What do we notice here, friends?
So for me, it seems that's fine. That's like, hey, I talked to an alumna and got her opinion. But again, maybe it was just word choice, but this one person's opinion is now a fact that you've learned.
Okay. I'm going even less deep than that.
Oh.
I want to know if this is a guy or a girl who wrote this, a man or a woman who wrote this.
Why?
I don't want to make assumptions. Alumnus, no. Wow, you guys are all missing the point here.
What? But how do we know
What
it's
is
a
it?
doctor?
Yeah, maybe I thought it was a student. Like,
well, UAV Med School.
I hope
They
they're talking about a
graduated.
med school graduate.
yeah,
Why would they be talking about an undergraduate graduate?
I don't know. It says
I
at the
see your point.
university though. It doesn't
Right.
say at the
If
medical
they're a
school.
UVA Med alumna, then by now they should have their doctorate,
Right.
MD. And if they don't have their MD, then why would you mention them in this essay?
Right.
Correct. Right. And that's a super nitpicky thing to, like, if we're talking specifically about the med school, let's be very specific about the med school, because UVA historically, colloquially, like, is that the right word? Colloquially, like, that's the undergrad, right?
Yeah.
So use COM, SOM, whatever the full name of the school is, so we're not confused. I'm going to make an assumption that they are specifically talking about the medical school because they say, hey, I went to an open house at UVA. So I'm gonna assume that. And then the fact that they didn't reference this person as a doctor, to me, is just, no, like, be professional, be polite, like, use people's titles. And the fact that I'm assuming Mackenzie is typically a female name, making gender assumptions here. And if this was a male who wrote this, that's typically where we see a lack of respect, just historically, in terms of using professional degrees as titles.
Oh, Grasshopper, you have become the master. Thank you for catching that.
I'm one with the women.
I'm so proud of you, Ryan.
Hadley says maybe they were trying to cut down on characters. Those are not the characters you want to cut out.
Those are the wrong ones, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Here's
I
a
missed it,
different
but
way.
I don't have an MD. If the reader were an MD
Yes.
like Ryan, they would have noticed.
Yeah, you can take the first name out. You can.
I have lots of female friend physicians who talk about this on a daily basis, just the lack of respect.
I've heard interviewers go down that road so many times.
Yep.
So that is 100%.
Yep. Okay. Anything else to say about this one? Did they answer the question?
Yeah, but they didn't answer what's more important to you when choosing a medical school. Like, what's the most important thing for you?
Yeah.
It's a lot of, this is
didn't
what I
answer that.
love. Yeah.
It was all about UVA. Great. They didn't answer the next part. Right?
Lavender says it's in the beginning.
I could loosely interpret that as being answered. It's not a call out like these are the most important things, but they're listing the things that they find important about the school and what it offers organically.
It's a stretch. It's a stretch, I think.
It's a stretch, but it's there.
Med school, here I come. Or not. We'll see.
1,000 characters. Not much space.
Yeah. And so the response length that they give is 1,000 characters, and this is 979.
This is one where we don't want to see verbatim from your experience section.
All right, too much story, none of reflection, only 2 sentences of reflection. They do not connect it back to why that's, that was an early one. Oh, maybe it's not. They do not reflect it back to why that school specifically. That's not the prompt.
Well, it says, how has it shaped a desire to apply to med school? And it doesn't really get a lot out of that. It just says, I was afraid and now I feel okay about it.
Yeah, to medical school specifically, but not that specific
Not that
med
one.
school.
Yeah, different. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Rachel, what do you think?
Yeah, I think the students have a good pulse on this one. Too much story, not enough answering the question, not enough reflection.
Yep.
That's a powerful story. I can see Owen. I can see Dr. O. Dr. O. Shoot. I'm sorry, Dr. O. Okay. I got it right the first time.
I think O. Yeah. Like au contraire.
Yeah. So the story is really powerful, but the prompt is describe healthcare experiences and how shaped your desire to apply. And it's one experience and not much shaping of desire.
And it's tough in such a short character space, right? So this is one of those where you might have to just be very brief, very succinct, very specific.
Yeah.
Avoid the flowery details. Just get to the point.
Yeah. And Courtney, the takeaway here The prompt is, how has it shaped your desire to be a physician or apply to medical school? And the reflection is, I was concerned I was going to get attached, and now it seems like it's okay. I can be attached, right? It's a trait that they're like, my traits are okay.
Yeah. Or kind of my greatest weakness is I care too much.
That's exactly it.
I feel like the prompt was really asking more about taking a global look at your healthcare experiences, right? It's plural. That involved the direct exposure to physicians' clinical duties, looking globally at that, reflecting on it, and then saying how it shaped your desire to apply to medical school. And that's not really what this does. While it's an impactful story, I would anticipate that this was probably used as a most meaningful or something else in the application. So, if so, it would be redundant, and it doesn't quite fit the prompt. That's not really the content we were looking for.
Yeah, and there's a lot of chatter in the chat about like, but what if I already used that experience in my activity or my personal statement? Generally, my rule of thumb is don't ever let a prior essay get in the way of answering your question now. I know earlier Courtney said she, usually would go straight from primary to secondary, but listen carefully. I'm saying you can draw on the same experience. I hope that experience is rich enough that you have new things to say about it. And you may have different experiences you can use for different examples. That's part of why we get lots of clinical and lots of shadowing, so that you have both a broad and deep well of experiences to use. But yeah, if you find that you have a few really powerful ones that you keep coming back to, if they're that powerful, then you should be able to examine them from multiple angles.
Yep. As long as they're not verbatim copy paste, right? I think that's the only hang up. I totally agree though. You can definitely go for the same topic, subject, event. Just do your due diligence in making it fit the prompt in which you're trying to use it. So yes, totally agree.
Okay. Any other thoughts on this one before we skedaddle on to the next one? It's a very underutilized word in society, skedaddle. All right. I love mapped. We love mapped too, and you too. My guess is that this is the same student, same school, same storytelling right off the bat.
Same, yeah.
Do you guys see, for everyone, and this is why I love Application Academy, is because the students start to see what we see as the mentors, the teachers here. They'll start to see it. Do you guys see, like, the prompt is, which campus do you want to attend and why? We enter Children's Mercy for Tux appointment. Brightly colored. Like, just answer the question, please.
Yeah.
We've already read so much at that point.
Yeah.
We're asking you specific questions for a reason. We want that content, not all of this other stuff.
And the last thing you want is a frustrated reader, because they're not going to want to keep reading.
Like, no.
Well, and something Dr. Wright often says is, imagine I've already done 30 today and I have 30 more to go. Right. So, yes, they're taking this very seriously, but they're tired. They have a lot to get through. If yours isn't captivating them, they're gonna move on.
Well, and also if they feel like you can't even follow instructions or you can't comprehend the question that we're asking, that's going to be problematic. That's like with the mock interviews that we do, it's fighting the prompt, right? And don't do it. Just answer what they asked you without all of this extra stuff. You have to follow the instructions. That's what we want.
Yeah. So this whole first paragraph is nothing but a story with absolutely zero reflection. Right.
And I have no idea how it ties to campus whatsoever.
Mhm.
Yep, it doesn't. It doesn't. Okay. So the second paragraph starts, as a physician, when I offer a hand to my patient, I want to know I bring the knowledge of multiple disciplines and have learned with and from the elite.
I don't know if that's the best word choice.
Mhm.
Not at all. I don't know. I don't know what that means.
Elite?
The
Ooh.
elite. And what you're basically saying is, if I go to this campus, I'm going to be with the elite. If I go to this campus, I'm going to be with the peons. Like, no, my friends. No, my friends. I love doing these. So you can see where mistakes have been made. It was at this moment he knew he messed up.
And we, as evaluators, when you've read so many, you cue into kind of weird things like that, right? So if I
yeah.
already had kind of a tone that I was getting from the application, and then this person's talking about being trained from the elite and adding in all of this extra stuff, it would leave kind of a bad taste in my mouth, just kind of like, I don't really need to know more.
Yep.
Depending on the school and the evaluator.
So Rodney keeps asking, hooks, are hooks okay? Like, this is, I don't know if you guys can see my video. This got my hook here. Yeah, no hooks in secondaries. Don't need them.
Just pull yourself out, Ryan. Just, yeah, there you go.
Exit stage left. All right. Thank you for whoever submitted that. Great learning experiences here. We laugh, we poke, but we're all learning.
This is getting me excited for our application academy. I love
excited.
this stuff.
So
Only
good.
a few more weeks and it'll be started.
I actually like secondaries. I know.
I love secondaries.
I
Yeah.
do. Mhm.
Okay, what do we think? It's a pretty short one. They answered the prompt, says Devin.
Yeah.
I like it, says Marlene.
They used the wrong theirs. I can't help it.
Where? I missed it.
Yeah, me too.
Yep.
Oh,
The
yeah.
bottom one.
Oh, got it. Yeah, I didn't even see that. Do they need to say that they knew they were going to be a doctor, so they needed to step out of their shell?
Nope.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned that, Brittany, because that was really my only complaint. It's
Yep.
like, you don't have to tie it back to med.
Yep.
Overall, this is pretty
Like that.
strong.
Mhm.
It's straightforward. It tells a story without getting too creative. It actually answers the questions.
Yes.
Rodney says, does that matter? There. I do think that stuff matters, Rodney. We just don't spend a lot of time on it because you guys can download something like Grammarly for free, right? We're not going to spend our time picking at things that any English expert can tell you. We want to keep our feedback very specific to the med school experience. But yeah, you don't want to distract your reader.
And that might vary by reader. You might have one who's a little more forgiving, and then you might have one who's a stickler.
Some people really, really care about grammar a lot.
But see, I missed that one. That's why I'm surprised.
That's true. Courtney did catch that one, didn't she? I got hung up on small school in the middle of the prairie. I'm like,
Yeah.
MSU is not that small. Michigan isn't really the prairie. What are you doing? What do you say?
And I didn't know if that was the comfort zone that they stepped out of, right? Going into that environment. So, but yeah, this was good.
Okay. Awesome sauce. Thank you, Application Jumpstart. You're welcome.
Yikes. On that first. Is it bad? Is it bad that, I mean, I got about 3 sentences in and I was like, I don't want to read the rest of this. Not
No,
good.
it's not bad at all, and that's the exact feedback to give to the student is what did you take away after those first couple of sentences?
That they either didn't spend a lot of time writing this and they're just slinging it back to me, or I have bigger concerns. I would go on to read the other ones to see if that's a consistent theme throughout. This was not good.
Yep.
This needed quite a bit of work and should not. I hope this wasn't sent in because, but I have seen things like this, and that would be an evaluator's immediate reaction to it.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, and again, these are submitted for Application Jumpstart. Maybe this was written 20 minutes before and they're submitting it. Great, right? We're going to give you the feedback. If this was submitted, this potentially could be one of those things where a student hit that tsunami of secondary essays and just was trying to get it submitted and just wrote something down. And
Yeah.
It was probably a waste of time.
Well, and I definitely, I think it's a common thing to notice is that the personal statement will be very polished, and then you get to the secondaries and it's either a different tone, different writing style, or they're just slung in like this. Like, okay, either they took a lot more time with their personal statement or they got assistance. Maybe they didn't write it because these two people are not the same. And we don't like that inconsistency. So even though you want to turn them around quickly, they're still incredibly important. Again, these are the only school specific questions we get to ask. And if you're just flinging it back to us with typos, it doesn't matter what your stats are. If you're sending in stuff like this, they are not going to want to go any farther.
Yeah, and not just low typos, but low quality content. You know, Michelle asked, what would be the best way to answer this? Well, it doesn't really work like that, Michelle. There are lots of right answers, but there are also some pretty clear wrong ones. And let's just think about this. Let's imagine it was a patient, and a patient said to you, Dr. Tooze, how did you familiarize yourself with medicine? And you said, oh, I went to a bunch of meetings. But you didn't go do clinical work in a hospital or a private practice. You didn't shadow. You went to some meetings.
Isn't that what classes are? They're meetings.
I mean, that's just not rich.
Yeah.
And they recently found a site where medical professionals present about their experiences. So they just recently found this.
I have done some research trying to decide what specialty might suit me. Getting a little ahead of yourself. But I wouldn't have even made it that far. If we're being totally transparent, I would not have read this whole thing. It would have been done.
So Rena asks, can you answer with multiple experiences? Sure. Right. Again, there's no right or wrong. There's plenty of wrong. In terms of
there's not a lot of characters though.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's keep rocking. Maybe do one or two more. Go Twins. Okay, so this is a why us question. So we saw a relatively good one earlier. And this is a why Dio one as well.
just a heads up, this is one of the schools that you want to apply early and get on their docket.
It's all those seats they save for the Canadians.
No. No.
What are you responding to? What are you responding to there, Courtney?
No. Okay. So this is not the way to talk about osteopathic medicine. Caring about the whole patient instead of being worried about the symptoms only. That is absolutely not true. Just Dr. Gray was like that, only caring about the symptoms as an MD.
Well, Courtney, I understand what you're saying, but the American Osteopathic Association pushed that narrative for a long time, which is why students keep pushing it.
Yeah, well, and all of us directors on our council push back a lot on that.
I'm having like a Mean Girls moment, like, stop trying to make holistic happen.
Oh my gosh, right? I cannot tell you how many directors and deans are sick to death of the word holistic.
Holistic is so
tools
fetch,
in a
Courtney.
tool belt, tools in a tool belt, holistic, or I want to be a doctor that, you know, cares about my patients and not just focuses on symptoms. These are cliche, they are outdated, they are overused, and they are not accurate.
Yeah, Courtney, you and I need to do a podcast episode specifically on how to talk about YDO or how not to talk about YDO.
Yeah, for sure. There's so much more to it, and again, this is another one where I made it through the first paragraph cringing the whole way through. And it's not like, this is why we do these trainings, right? You don't know that we are just crawling out of our skin when we read this, but they are. So don't do it. And get into the meat of it. I want examples. I want some type of understanding. You can even talk about the tenets and how you will want to apply those. But, you know, man.
And for crying out loud, don't refer to it as a mentality. Osteopathic is not a mentality.
Yeah. Okay. So that's how not to answer YDO. What about why this school? Do they like, I'm interested in this one course.
I didn't make it that far.
and that's okay.
Yeah, it does sound a little bit like I'm interested in this one course. And also, if you're going to tell me you're interested in global healthcare, then I am going to be going back to your primary and looking at your activities to see what prior work you have with global healthcare. So I'm going to, we've given a lot of tough love to this person. I'm just going to say, go Twins. I assume that your activities have some real great stuff about helping the world. You probably have been in Sierra Leone doing work with Partners in Health every summer for as long as you can remember.
Yep. All right. So not a great YDO, not a great why this school. Let's keep working on it. All righty.
It's 9:10.
Yeah. Should we jump into some Q&A?
That's what I was thinking is, yeah, let's, the chat's been hopping.
Yeah. But before we jump into Q&A though, I want to just talk briefly about Application Academy. We've mentioned a few times, applicationacademy.com is where you can go to learn more. You can watch a whole session that we did about finding your seed for a personal statement. Basically, Application Academy is all of us, a lot. You get 10 hours a week, 2 sessions a day at least, where you are interacting with our medical school headquarters team. It's myself, it's Verinia, it's Rachel, it's Courtney, it's Dr. Scott Wright, who is ill tonight, teaching personal statements, secondaries, activities, interviews, other essays, Q&A. We have TAs that will be doing sessions as well. We're also looking into no promises. We're also looking into having an MCAT session as well during the week. 52 weeks of all of that to help you prep for your application in this very similar environment. Usually it's only one of us at a time teaching, but as a group, you all are here, you're all participating together. It's usually a smaller group than it is tonight. We're about 70, 75 people here tonight. Historically, Application Academy, during our live sessions, because most people watch the recordings because we record it all, during the live sessions, there's maybe 20 people there, sometimes 30. So it's a little bit smaller. So you can keep looking through Application Academy. We'll have some pre-recorded modules with some teachings on every part of the application process. And then all of the live sessions that you'll get access to Maps Pro for a year, which is going to include my LORs, which is our brand new letter of recommendation platform. You'll get access to all of our books if you don't have them already. Just to show you a sample kind of schedule here. It's not finalized yet, but just to kind of see what a potential schedule will look like for you. So go check it out, applicationacademy.com. And yes, you can skip around the modules, applicationacademy.com to check that out. Rachel is posting the links that have the coupon code embedded in them specifically for Application Jumpstart students. So go check that out. Do we offer scholarships? We
will be.
Will be. Yeah, we will be.
So I mentioned this last week kind of as a teaser. We are all so lucky. We have a one-on-one student that we've been helping this year who is still in his interview process. So, we're not sure where he's going to med school next year, but he's just been so happy with working with us and so excited about the fact that we offer some non-one-on-one options that are more affordable, that he's going to contribute to a fund to help us get more people into Academy for probably about a quarter of the cost. There will be some rules, so there'll be an email. So you have 1,000 questions. I don't have the answers, but stay tuned because we'll try to get that out to you in the next week or so that if you're interested in enrolling, you can join Academy anytime. You don't have to start January 9th, but we know some of you are eager to. So we'll try to get at least a few of you who are interested in that scholarship have that option to do so when we start in the new year. So stay tuned. There will be a scholarship opportunity. In the meantime, you can save $100 by paying in full or with our 4-payment plan. So not a bad. What's the blue device?
Oh, my thing. It's called a Theracane. It is a massage tool. I have a bum shoulder right now. Anyway, all right, let's rock and roll. What questions do you guys have? I have a bum shoulder as well. Sorry, Gracia. I just scheduled a massage for tomorrow afternoon. I can get it worked on again. Michelle asks, I cannot afford to do volunteer hours, but I did about 4 years of volunteering during high school at a public hospital. Any recommendations? So first, let's clarify. What do you mean by volunteer hours, Michelle? Do you mean clinical volunteer hours or do you mean non-clinical? My assumption is you mean clinical. Remember,
community service.
She means community service. Okay. Yeah. So non-clinical. Is that a huge deal, Courtney?
In the scheme of things, yeah. It's generally the one where I see the lowest amount of hours or did. We understand that we're asking you to take on a lot as pre-meds with schooling, with clinical experiences, shadowing, potentially research, if you're doing that, finishing your degree, studying for the MCAT, keeping your own mental, physical, spiritual well-being and your family relationships going. So volunteer when you can. Usually what I would do when I was advising is, this is one of the things where hours can add up over time, right? Sometimes you do an event here and you do an event here, or you do 2 hours here. But over time, you know, with the various communication opportunities that you've done, if you've tracked them well, that could be something substantial, plus it shows over time. So I would say high school is going to be ruled out. They're not going to want to see that. But this is something, if you can, within the next 4 or 5 months, tuck in at least a couple events, you know, or initiatives, or, you know, try to do what you can, because you don't want to leave this section just completely blank. As a physician, you're going to be looked to as a community leader and somebody that, you know, needs to be involved. And so we want to see evidence of that. Don't go in with 0.
But clinical can be paid, right? I mean, you can get paid clinical experience. Often the pay is not great. But
we paid our scribes. Yeah.
But yeah, so for the person asking, you can't afford to do it. Well, so have a job and then do a little bit of volunteering, like Courtney's saying. And the volunteering might be clinical, or it might be Habitat for Humanity. I mean, always check med school websites, but most of them, when they talk about community service, will say community service outside of medicine. They'd like to know that you care about people beyond just healthcare.
Yep. You can go to a soup kitchen and, you know, a homeless shelter. They always need help. There are always shifts available that, you know, are a couple hours long. You can do Humane Society where you take dogs on walks, you know, things like that. There's always stuff to get yourself plugged in and doing something other than school or kind of self-service in the hospital. So yeah.
Check out nursing homes too.
Yeah.
They're always looking for companions for elderly.
Yes, that is a great suggestion.
Yeah. Big brother,
Yep.
big sister. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Oh
Yeah. Yep. Oh, we got lots of questions coming in. Someone want to keep track of these? Who wants to pick a question?
Yeah, I'm trying to kind of moderate a little. So Hadley wants to know, for activities, can we mention something we did at high school age, but in college? Yeah, typically with activities, Hadley, and it does vary from app service to app service, but the rule of thumb is anything post high school. The only time you tend to want to include it in high school, and again, I'm just at activities essays right now, is if you did it in high school and you continue to do it into college and beyond. Now, you know, the common thing I always get is, but Eagle Scout, there might be a place for it in a secondary. It might be that something you did in high school is part of your Y medicine. I'm not saying high school's verboten. I'm saying activities specifically tend to say post high school graduation.
Yeah, I would say college on. Whenever I would see Eagle Scouts, it was usually listed in like honors, awards, or leadership opportunities and things like that. They would mention that they were an Eagle Scout.
Graduated high school at 15. Holy moly, Hadley, slow down. What are you in a rush for? Let's see.
Sashane wants to know.
College at 17. We have a prodigy.
Oh, I was at college at 17. That's not. That's very different than graduating high school at 15. College at 17.
No, she graduated at 17.
Oh my goodness. I thought she meant she started it. I was like, she took 2 gap years to grow up.
So
Holy moly,
this is one of the things actually I do want to mention. I don't think it's necessarily applicable to Hadley because she may be a little bit older now, but I have had prodigy students apply, and we run into some issues. Even though we're not supposed to discriminate because of age, there are some restrictions to that, where if you are not going to be of a certain age when you finish med school or need to do rotations in the hospitals, and they need you to be a certain age and not have to have parents sign for something, it can be an issue. So hopefully you are above 18 or 21. by the time you are needing to do rotations. Just a little plug out there.
Yes.
Oh, so many questions. You guys are hungry tonight.
Ah, you guys are crushing it with questions. Is Scribe clinical? Yes. Not every school likes it at being clinical, but listed as clinical. Bum-ba-dum-ba-dum.
Is it okay to talk in a secondary essay that we ran out of space to list as an activity? Annie, that sounds to me like you're trying to fit in your own agenda. So I'm going to take you back to the 2 rules. What are the 2 rules of secondaries? Rule number 1 is pre-write or regret it. Rule number 2 is answer the question.
Yep.
Someone asked, how do you show passion in an activity if you didn't really enjoy it?
What do you think, Vernia?
You can't fake this one. Either choose something else to talk about, or go back in time and find something else that you can enjoy. But yeah, you can't force that. I wouldn't include it. I wouldn't write about it. Unless you can find a way to write about it in a way that's constructive and not just faking passion for it. Good luck.
Is it okay to have only clinical volunteering at your pace? I hear so many pre-meds go ENT, CNA, scribe, but without gap year, it is tough, to be honest. I don't know what that means. At your pace. Everything is at your pace. That's life. I'm not sure what that question is asking, Irina. If you can ask again. Yeah.
Catherine
You don't have to
says-
do all of those.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Catherine asks, does having a letter of rec from more than one doctor help? Do docs often expect you to write the letter of rec for them?
Do not do that.
Courtney, would you be happy if you knew, as a former director of admissions, that the student wrote the letter of recommendation?
So I've actually, prior to becoming a director, when I was involved with the scribe company, I knew that happened. Don't do it. Just ask them, find physicians, maybe, go in leading with, I would hope to be able to ask you for a strong letter of recommendation, blah, blah, blah. Is there stuff that you need? Can I, provide you with a resume or a past application, things like that, where they can pull from. You may be able to tell them some things that you want to highlight or focus, or core qualities that you would love for them to mention if they feel like they have evidence and can speak to that. But beyond that, do not write it for your science professors or the physician. It needs to be written by them. It is not good practice. Do not do it. Don't do it.
Yeah. A lot of probably the same student keeps asking, talking about specific specialties. Verena, you just answered that, to hosts and panelists.
Oh, sorry. Well,
Change to everyone. Yeah, like the goal of the personal statement is why medicine, not why specific specialty. So don't need to get there.
Yeah.
Don't need to. And also, that's what Med 3 and Med 4 are for. You'll figure it out there.
Yeah, I think if somebody came in talking about only wanting to do like ortho or something, I'd be like, okay.
We got too many ortho bros.
Okay.
We don't need another one.
Yeah.
Okay, Jenny wants to know, and someone else said they had the same question. Is it important to get varied clinical experience, or is having one clinical volunteer experience okay if it was super meaningful?
Varied.
Very,
But it's
and
technically up to you.
yeah, it's hard, right? This comes across. I have a friend who runs a competing company, right? Collaboration, not competition. He runs a competing pre-med advising company. There's a YouTube video of him saying, you should get 3 different physicians to shadow. I'm like, do you know how hard it is to get one? Like, it's ridiculous. So, like, do your best at the end of the day. And yes, there are medical schools that have a very primary care focused mission. Now,
Mhm.
I was having this argument yesterday on Reddit. I love to go on Reddit and argue. I've been getting into it recently. Defending the DO world, Courtney, because they're like, oh, like the DOs go into primary care more than MDs. I'm like, no, like look at the stats. Like most students, period, MD or DO go into primary care because that's the majority of residency spots that are available. And then they subspecialize after that. So I don't know why I'm talking about this. I forget. So let's move on.
You got on a rant.
Yeah, it was about, do you need very clinical? Yeah, I guess, and I think maybe Ryan.
Oh yeah. No, so there are
clinical.
so there are primary care medical schools, and if you have zero primary care type experience and it's all really, really subspecialized stuff, they may not like that. So that's where the varied can come into play.
Yeah. But yeah, if you only have one, but the one is primary care or internships or ER, something where you're getting exposed to a lot of stuff, you're probably okay. If you only have optometry tech, maybe you get something else. But if that's all you can get, that's all you can get.
Yeah.
Yeah. The one that I know would rub some people the wrong way is if you are working for, like, if your parent happens to be a physician and you are clearly in their clinic, and you didn't branch out at all. That doesn't mean that you can't include those hours, but if that's your only hours, it doesn't come across very favorably, but it's not necessarily a ruling out factor. It's just, it's not the strongest thing to lead with. You want to branch out at least a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's noticeable. We do check. So
yep.
Michelle wants to know, does community service have to be local or does volunteering online count? I think local is probably preferable, just like shadowing in person is preferable. During COVID, med schools were saying that e-shadowing was acceptable. Now, a lot of them are kind of going back to, if you used it as a little bit of a supplement, that's fine, but they're expecting you to find some in-person shadowing. We used to say crisis text line was not clinical. During COVID, we kind of changed our minds. I think a lot of us are starting to back off of it. It is important work. Can you also get something where you do some face-to-face interaction?
mm-hmm.
Yep. All right, let's do one more question here. Meghana, can you shadow a CRNA in the OR? You can shadow whoever you want. You can put all of the different shadowing of NPs, PAs, CRNAs, ODs, PTs, DCs, DPMs. Am I missing any big letters? DDSs. You can do it all. DVMs. PAs. I missed PAs. Yeah. You can shadow all of them. And if you're applying to medical school, the majority of your shadowing should be physicians. But it's okay to list other shadowing. It shows the admissions committees that you're out there exploring the world.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, if you would love to be with us more, we're going to be here next week doing mock interviews. This will be a very fun one where you show up, you raise your hand, we're going to bring you on, we're going to ask you a question, you're going to come on, just you and us. Everyone else will close their eyes and shut their ears. And you're going to answer the question and then we'll give you feedback. So come next week. It's going to be a blast. And again, if you want more of this, check out applicationacademy.com. Use that promo code Jumpstart or Jumpstart Installments, I think is the other one, if you are buying the installments. So I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful evening, a wonderful week. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.